you guys have to come on up and need help on that, so that's my and everything, but not necessarily like to approve everything, just me and myself, and that will, just trying to absolutely great, a little bit of vision out there.
The chiropractic place?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that price for medicine, I'll get that for the fall, that for the morning tonight. And I got the landlord approval, we want it, but now we can go get one of the, and all we're gonna put is the willows, and when they all sign away, and then you watch a new trail come in, and say, well, I don't want it. Yeah. It should have been mandated that, so I'm doing what I'm on right now, for, Todd Perry, not on my ranch. He sold 6 lots, and I'm building 45-foot tall line right now, 300 square feet, for all of those subdivided lots. And he was mandated by the city to do because of this exact thing, because otherwise, each one of these plans, no, that you don't want that on a short, not piece of road. 2, you know, it's just that's, they're the ones capitalizing on the investment, selling the land, so they get a good design, they do all that part. I think that's a good way to do it. You know, for any commercial subdivision area, that, I think that's a really good thing. You know, it stops this problem. And I've done it 3 times on it. You gotta wait. That's all the rules. We're gonna have any other commissioners.
I'd like to call this hearing to order. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Caldwell Hearing Examiner on July 13, 2020. I serve in both a decision-making capacity and an advisory capacity to the Mayor and City Council There are two types of public hearings this commission conducts. The first is the legislative hearing, whereby we formulate recommendations on certain land use requests. My recommendations are forwarded on to the city council, who makes decisions on legislative matters. The second type of public hearing is quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that the request is specific to a parcel of land. I am authorized to make decisions on requests for special use permits, variances, preliminary plat, time extensions, and planned unit developments that do not involve the subdivision of land. However, any decision I may make tonight is by no means final. Anyone that believes he or she has been aggrieved by my decision has the right to file an appeal to city council. On quasi-judicial requests that involve the subdivision, land, rezones, and annexation, I am authorized to only make recommendations to the city council, who will make the decision. The hearing procedures, as required by the Idaho Code, are as follows. 1, staff will first present a report on the application. 2, the applicant or the applicant's representative will then present the summary of the request. 3, testimony of those in support will be taken, followed by testimony from those in neutral position, followed by those in opposition. I will allow the applicant or the applicant's representative to rebuttal. After rebuttal testimony is given, public testimony is closed, and no new or oral or written testimony will be allowed unless I elect to reopen the testimony. The time limits for the applicant is 10 minutes. Those in favor, neutral, opposed, and rebuttal will be 5 minutes each. I accept oral and written testimony from those in attendance, but only if you have signed the sign-up sheet to speak available at the front of the room and have been sworn in. When testifying before me, you must come to the podium, state your full name and address, and acknowledge that you've been sworn in. And we thank you for your courtesy to us and others as we move through this process. And now conduct the swearing in of the presenters and the staff. Stand, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Thank you very much. We have a brief calendar. There's really one hearing item. The old business, section 2, we have 2 cases. First is ANN 21-0001 and PUD 1 to be continued the August 24th hearing examiner meeting. That's the Enclave subdivision. The second action item, case number SUP 21-000006, is to be continued to August 24th, the hearings examiner meeting, and that is the so-called Timbergrass Apartments. Section 3 in new business, the action item ANN 21-00004 and SUB 21P-01 will be continued to a non-specific date when that application is ready. And that's the so-called Soterra subdivision application. And the one before us, action item 2, case number SUP-21-04, a request by Danavance for a special use permit to construct an electronic message center in an R1 low-density residential zone on parcel R35237014. The property is located at 320 Smead Parkway. And with that, I'll turn the time over to the staff to make the presentation on this case. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Katie Phillips, 621 Cleveland Boulevard, and I have been sworn in. Tonight before you is indicated a request to allow an electronic message center be constructed in an R1 zone. This type of signage requires special use permit approval. The subject property is the location of Valley View School District, new middle school, Summit View Middle School, located at 320 Smead Parkway. The total square footage of the electronic message center is approximately 20 square feet. The total square footage of the sign is approximately 210 square feet. Landscaping around the sign is required by the landscape code and has been included as part of the application. The sign will not encroach any portion of public right-of-way, will not be located within any vision triangle area, and the request is consistent with city code policies and So, and with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Katie. Two questions that might be for the applicant. Are there restrictions on hours of operation of the meter board, the lighted meter board?
Not within the sign ordinance that I'm aware of.
And, what kind of along with that is there some kind of, or what's the visibility to the single-family homes that, in the area? Is this gonna be like in somebody's living room flashing on and off, or have those kind of issues?
Typically, our department doesn't hear about those types of complaints with these types of signs. I do know that there are several schools within Caldwell that do have these types of signs, and they are adjacent to residential neighborhoods, and we have not received any complaints regarding any lighting or flashing or anything of that nature.
Okay, and then, the next question is, I looked at the diagram, looks like exhibit 83, of the sign, the perspective drawing. The reader board portion of that is, if you're following me, there's like the area where the American flag depicted, is that?
That is where the
Okay.
electronic message center is.
And with these banners, above and below that, and so that reader board is, according to this fellow in the drawing, 6 feet tall, it's got roughly, 14 feet off the ground, is that correct, the bottom edge of that? Maybe if the applicant could answer this for me.
Okay.
I'm just curious how high off the ground the reader board was. Okay, thank you, Katie. With that, will the applicant please, take the presentation?
Aaron Vance, 1814 O'Hara Street, and yes, I have been sworn in. To answer a couple of your questions, hours of operation on the sign are not designated by the code and everything, but it's fully programmable inside the sign. The sign has the capability of being set to turn off at a specific time of night, and most of the Valley View School District does that anyway, just because there's no need to waste the power.
Right.
So it's a preset program, I show them how to do it and everything, and I retrain the staff as staff changes that over the years. I've been doing it for 20 years with the staff of Valley View School District.
And what is their intention on that? Is it to, shut it off at night on every night?
Yes,
I didn't interrupt you, I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, they have the ability to do that. Most of the time they do that. I advise them to do that because there is no need. As far as the adjacent house, the closest adjacent house to this is over 400 feet away. On the opposite side of the street, protected by trees. It's owned by a doctor. He was not present at the community meeting. I've had message centers much closer to people's residence, Skyway Elementary School. Specifically, I had a gal in here to do opposition because she was concerned about it. Her house was directly parallel, or, perpendicular to the sign, would not affect her in any way, shape, or form. In the end of the meeting, she spoke on my behalf for the sign, and I assured her that it would be shut off, and the principal has shut it off since then, at night, so it doesn't affect her after school has ended, so.
Okay. And do you have any more in your presentation?
As far as your height, yes, 14 feet is about right, 13.5 to 14 feet is where the bottom message center is. We typically try to keep them up. These are rather expensive signs and everything. We have seen some vandalization of them in the past, actually here in Caldwell so we've learned from those mistakes and get them up a little bit higher to where they're a little more protected, so.
Okay, the question I had on that, as a driver, to be looking up, taking your eyes considerably off the, drive path and look at that, is that a kind of issue?
The resolution of this sign is, it's in millimeters, is 15.85 millimeters, so it's a tighter configuration, so it can be seen from a farther distance away. So the text can be up there longer, and on average, I don't think that, Katie can probably, I don't think it says in the code how long the slides have to remain.
The refresh rate?
The refresh rate, but on average, I think on average, I asked them to keep it under 6 to 8 seconds, because people don't read that fast, and you don't want them making quick decisions on that. We've never really had an issue with it. There is no flashing allowed or anything like that. It would be a distraction to drivers. These signs have been taken all the way up to the Supreme Court. There are dimming sensors in them, so it operates at 100% power during the day. At night, it operates at 7% power, and it dims automatically.
Even on cloudy days, it's designed to pick up that ambient light, so they're very safe.
It was kind of a dumb question, but it's just two-sided,
Yes, it
you
is.
see it coming and going, so to speak, okay.
Primary traffic would be coming from Highway 55. The other side of that, going down Schmead, is, Marble Front. It's really not used, really not developed, but as we looked at the subdivisions, they're coming, which is what this school is servicing for that portion of the community. Schools use this to put out a lot of information, such as choir concerts, things like that. Saves on cost of, mailing, everything in newspapers and other things like that, so.
Right, okay, that's all the questions I have, does that finish your presentation?
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you very much. And with that, I will close the hearing and move on to decision phase. So case number SUP-21-04, Summit View EMC, the findings facts are as follows. The Caldwell hearing examiner accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application. The proposed use conditionally permitted by the terms of the ordinance and is subject to conditions of approval. Conclusions of law. The Caldwell hearing examiner has the authority to hear this case in order that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, and the hearing was conducted within the guidelines of applicable Idaho code and city ordinances. Order of decision. Based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the Caldwell hearing examiner hereby orders that case number SUP-21-04, request by Dana Vance, Superior Signs, for a special use permit to construct an electronic message center within the R1 single-family residential zone located in Caldwell, Idaho, is approved with the following conditions of approval. And there are conditions 8.2 through 8.6 in the staff report on pages 3 and 4, and these will be the relevant conditions of approval. And with that, I close this hearing, and thank you very much for your attendance. I don't use the gavel out of respect to Mayor Cole. That's his, so. You might as pen.
I'll see you later. Work all the way. Oh, it's so much work.
Some good questions that I wrote down. We have another science case that'll be coming up.